of the House for the 5th session, 2026.
Majority Leader. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the 5th session of 2026 as contained in the schedule to the order paper. And Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee has proposed a total of 116 sittings for this session between 10th February, which is yesterday when we resumed, all the way to the 3rd of December this year. And this excludes any special sittings or any extra sittings that the House may resolve to sit due to any special business that may come or any priority business that may come in between, and we need to extend our sittings or to call for special sittings during either the short or the long recesses. Honorable Speaker, as members may also be aware, this first session, first part of the session is mostly guided by the submission of the budget policy statement and the medium-term debt strategy, which is to be tabled before this House by the 15th of February, which is this Sunday. Therefore, we expect that this will be tabled before the close of business tomorrow and should be considered and adopted by the House within the next 14 days. Therefore, until around the first week of March or the end of this month, we should have finalized with the budget policy statement and the medium-term debt strategy. And therefore, the Budget and Appropriations Committee, all our departmental committees, and the Debt Committee will be very busy the next 2 weeks. And therefore, I want to call on members, please avail yourselves during committee sittings so that you're able to expedite on this business for BPS and the medium-term debt strategy paper before the lapse of those 14 days, because these are statutory timelines. Additionally, we expect that we will get the division of revenue, hopefully by the 10th of March, which will be introduced in the National Assembly for consideration. And the second part, Honorable Speaker, is guided again by the budget timelines on conducting of public participation or public hearings by the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the annual budget estimates. And this should be undertaken before the committee tables its report on the estimates for approval by the House. Honorable Speaker, by mid-June, we should have completed this public participation. The committee tabled their report, and mid-June, we come for the pronouncement of the budget highlights and the revenue-raising measures by the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, and thereafter, approval of Budget and Appropriations Committee's report on the annual estimates, introduction and approval of the appropriation bill. This is the period that we'll also consider the finance bill, the appropriations bill, and any supplementary appropriations bills that may come before June 30th, 2026, which is the end of the current financial year. Honorable Speaker, this calendar has also taken into consideration the religious holidays that may fall in between, like Easter, where Good Friday is falling in on the 3rd of April, and Easter Monday will be on the 6th of April, and therefore will not be affected by this calendar. Similarly, Eid al-Fitr is expected to take place probably on Friday, 20th March, or Saturday, 21st March, depending on the sighting of the moon. And again, this being non-parliamentary sitting days will not affect this calendar. Finally, Honorable Speaker, we also in the House Business Committee did consider the annual prayer breakfast, which we agreed from last year under your leadership, Honorable Speaker, that the national annual prayer breakfast will be held on the last Thursday of May. And that last Thursday falls on the 28th of May. And we have therefore had to cut short our resource by a week, our long recess in May by a week. And we therefore be resuming the week before, so that on the 28th of May, we are all expected to join together in prayer during the annual prayer breakfast. Honorable Speaker, let me note that under your instructions, I led the Kenyan delegation to the National Prayer Breakfast in the United States last week, and together with the whip, Majority Whip, the Honorable Osoro, Senators Veronica Maina, Senator Maanzo, the Honorable Member for Kathiani and Deputy Leader of Minority, Honorable Mbui, And the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, the former Vice President, also joined us at the National Prayer Breakfast. And Honorable Speaker, you know, there are people who are spreading rumors in Taifa Leo that they were going to meet certain people. The National Prayer Breakfast is not a place to meet people. Other than the tete-a-tete you'll have on the table where you sit, there were no other side meetings other than the side meetings that we all attended as the Kenyan delegation, which I led. It was not led by anybody else. Let that be clear. It was led by the majority leader. So those who are sponsoring stories in Taifa Leo that they are going to meet, I don't know who in the Trump administration. They met nobody. Honorable Speaker. Finally, the calendar has taken into consideration our school's calendar, Honorable Speaker, for both primary and secondary school holidays. And of course, those children under CBE and also those who attend the other systems, those who are attending the American system and the British curriculum holidays. If you look at the calendar, it has taken into consideration to ensure that those of you who have children under CBE, you will have time during the recess to spend with your children. And those who have children in the other systems, you also have time at least in two of the recess periods to spend time with your children and your families when you recess. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to move. And I want to ask the Honorable Member by the name Adams Kipsanai to second this motion for the calendar of the National Assembly. This being a good time for the Honorable Adams to second. I beg to move.
Sanai.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second.
Thank you. Jerry, take your seat. Order. Member on his feet. Thank you. I now propose the question at order number 15, which is that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 28, this House approved the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the 5th session 2026 as contained in the schedule to the order paper. You put the question? I now put the question at order number 15, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the 5th session 2026 as contained in the schedule to the order papers. Members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 16, the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2024, second reading.
Jerry Maina, that's your bill. Are you ready to move?
Yes, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. The majority leader was trying to distract me. I was telling him that he's mentioning me so positively many times, he might send different signals to my political affiliation. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the Health Amendment Bill 2024. And this bill, in a nutshell, seeks to criminalize.
Jerry, I know you are a first time out. When you move your bill, first you just read it as it is. I beg to move that the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2024, be now read a second time. Then you start your discourse.
KJ misled me, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for that guidance.
KJ, you are supposed to mentor, not to mislead new members. Go on, Jerry.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2024, be read for the second time. I will never forgive KJ. Honorable Speaker, the Health Amendment Bill, in a nutshell, seeks to make it illegal to detain dead bodies in hospitals or mortuary facilities. It also seeks to make it illegal to demand prepayment of any kind prior to offering of emergency treatment. Honorable Speaker, we've had a rich discourse with the Health Committee in regard to this bill. Initially, it had proposed that this is criminalized for both public and private facilities. Unfortunately, Honorable Speaker, and I put it on the floor so that members can take it up, we arrived at a consensus that these amendments are only directed at public facilities, which is insufficient and does not cater to the urgent need to ensure that all Kenyans are treated equally and have their right to dignity protected and access to health care protected as per the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, before I delve into the issues, allow me to appreciate the selfless input of the Budget Committee, the Health Committee, the Parliament's Legal Department, who despite my incessant prodding and numerous intellectual exchanges, never tired until we reached a consensus which is before this floor. This bill is personal to me, it is personal to the members of Parliament, it is personal to Kenyans, and I recognize that several members here have attended health-related funds drives for the families who perhaps have limited financial capacity because we are not equal in this life. Honorable Speaker, while Kenya now takes pride as having enacted universal health coverage, a momentous journey towards achieving access to health care for all, the lived experience of many Kenyans reflects otherwise. This bill proposes targeted amendments to the Health Act, Cap 241, to address two urgent issues that have been affecting Kenyans. The first being the demand for prepayment before emergency medical treatment is provided, and the detention or hostage taking of dead bodies by hospitals and mortuaries as collateral for unpaid medical bills. Honorable Speaker, this bill gives teeth to the constitutional right to emergency medical treatment and Article 43(2) of the Constitution of Kenya, and safeguards the right to dignity as provided by Article 28. Honorable Speaker, the law as it is lacking. The court's decisions and pronouncements, the High Court in particular, in regard to the issue of detaining dead bodies as collateral, given or the rationale behind it being that dead bodies, no matter how long they are detained in facilities, will never accrue any objective in a manner that they cannot be sold for profit. But the hospital and mortuaries continue to detain the bodies of Kenyans who have passed on, who perhaps come from financially incapacitated families, to ensure that they have drained them emotionally so that they can pay the bill. Honorable Speaker, the right to emergency treatment must be protected by this House. This expands the scope of emergency care to cover treatment at the scene, during transport, and through to the hospital. It also creates an offense for demanding prepayment, where any person held liable will be fined to a tune of Kenya shillings 3 million. These amendments further create an offense for detaining dead bodies where any public officer in a healthcare facility who has either facilitated or authorized detainment of a dead body shall be fined to a tune of Kenya shillings 2 million. Honorable Speaker, it further imposes a duty on all public sector healthcare providers to ensure that medical costs do not impede attention to emergency treatment. Honorable Speaker, like I have said, this is a lived experience. The Kenyatta National Hospital issued a public notice regarding 262 unclaimed bodies in the last year. Honorable Speaker, in June 2025, a further 124 unclaimed bodies were subjected to a similar notice. Many of these remain unclaimed precisely because families cannot afford the bills due to the harsh realities of the economic life in Kenya. To give life to this bill, Honorable Speaker, and the amendments therein, I want to reiterate that this is not mere rhetoric. This is not politics, Honorable Speaker. This bill is for the sake of the many Kenyans who are still unable to cater for their medical bills, or those of their loved ones once they're deceased. Honorable Speaker, the Mater Hospital in 2025 detained the body of a Kenyan by the name Caroline Tito, a widow, a mother of 2 college-age sons, for over 2 months for the failure to pay Kenya shillings 3.3 million. Honorable Speaker, from a human perspective, I want to pose a question to this House. Were the 2 college-age sons, did they have the capacity, even if they had wanted to clear the medical bill so that they could lay their mother to rest? Another further human experience and the human face of this bill is the Kenyatta Memorial Funeral Home. Honorable Speaker, this is a matter that I personally litigated in offering my pro bono services to Kenyans who cannot afford to pay for legal services. Honorable Speaker, this matter of the dead body hearing was one young, promising youth by the name Kelvin. Honorable Speaker, Kelvin was a medical student, straight A's from school, sponsored by the community, graduated, and then came to Nairobi to seek for employment opportunities. Unfortunately, he did not find any employment opportunity in regard to the course he had studied for. So like any other hardworking youth in Kenya, he started a border business. While going home on one unfortunate night, Kelvin was hit on the Thika superhighway by a public transport vehicle, and he was admitted under emergency care at the Kenyatta University Teaching Referral Hospital. Unfortunately, he accrued a bill to a tune of Kenya shillings 1.2 million. His mother could not be able to raise it. Kelvin had a wife and a young son. When I litigated this matter, Honorable Speaker, it gave me the perspective, and I want the members to put themselves in the shoes of Kelvin's mother, who was a squatter, who did not have any property she could have sold to get the body of her only son, who was a straight-A student, had come to Nairobi to seek for better opportunity. But unfortunately, he had encountered an incident where he passed on. Every day, his mother called me for 6 months as I litigated in court. And it broke my heart because I didn't know what to tell her. You know, some days we'd go to court, there'd be the bureaucracy of the judicial system, and every day she was hoping that she could find closure by laying Kelvin to rest. Kelvin deserved to have been given his right to dignity, to be accorded a funeral as per the African custom and traditions. Honorable Speaker, he couldn't because Kenyatta Memorial Funeral Home withheld his body for close to a year, emotionally draining his family. His mother had to do numerous harambees, and we know the economic situation in the village setup. They could not manage to raise the Kenya shillings 1.2 million. It might be pocket change for some people. But even Kenya shillings 500 in the village is a lot of money. And ultimately, this matter came to a conclusion. The court, the magistrate's court at Ruiru, ruled that a dead body, even if it is detained for 10 years, it will never be property that can be sold to recover the unpaid medical bills. Honorable Speaker, Pumwani Maternity Hospital, the High Court ruling of 2015. Maimuna Omuya was unable to pay a mere 6,000 Kenya shillings that was required so that she could be discharged. She was detained at the facility with her newborn for nearly a month. And every time, every day, the bill kept accruing. Honorable Speaker, the courts have been clear. They have pronounced themselves. It is upon this House to pass these amendments, to legislate, to give judicial legitimacy to the decisions by our courts of law. Honorable Speaker, from a human perspective, and because we are Africans, we know that it is custom for us to bury the dead, to lay them to rest, so that we can find closure and move on with the day-to-day life. There are families that are denied that by hospital facilities, just merely because they are financially incapable. It is not a case of not wanting to. I do not think anyone would want to leave their kin, someone that they loved, someone they shared and spent time with in this life, rotting away in a mortuary facility instead of doing as per our customs. Honorable Speaker, we are reminded again of emergency services. We say we have SHA that is supposed to cater for all Kenyans, but is that the reality, Honorable Speaker? I'll tell you the reality. Or like Kenyans say, quote unquote, vitu kwa ground. A young man in Kirinyaga County was playing football at a field near Kutus. He collapsed and was rushed to a nearby county medical facility. Unfortunately, he could not be admitted because he had apparently not paid for SHA. access to emergency services. We must ensure that medics that deny emergency services to Kenyans, who prioritize financial gain while a Kenyan is losing their life, they are culpable and that they are held so by the law and fined as per these amendments. Honorable Speaker, the realities, when we remember the baby who had a fork djembe in his head, went to Kenyatta National Hospital, the mother could not afford to raise 20,000 for that child to be treated. Unfortunately, due to the delay in attaining the dire emergency services, that baby succumbed while waiting for treatment on the bench of a facility that should have ensured that he's alive today, going to school like other children, and even given hope to his parents to see him grow and perhaps be like one of us here in future. Honorable Speaker, jurisdictions across the world have ratified through legislation the provisions that I am pushing bill. Canada have legislation that prioritizes emergency care and ensures that everyone, despite their financial capacity, can access the same. And then, honestly, the money must come after the human life has been saved. Someone asked me a very pertinent question. How will the hospitals recover their monies? And my answer was simple. Civil litigation, Honorable Speaker. A medical bill is a debt. In general practice, if someone owes you money, you make an application to the court, the matter is heard and determined, and if they had any assets after their liabilities had been paid off, then it is prioritized as a debt to be paid by the estate of that person. But the reality is that these families have no assets. It is not a case of they will not, they cannot, they have no capacity to pay. And even if, like I have insisted, the body was detained for 10, 20 years, it can never be sold for even Kenya shillings 1 bob. So it is a humane perspective. We've also recommended that there be a mechanism or a policy to determine needy families or cases so that persons who are actually able to pay for these services do not take advantage. Honorable Speaker, the Supreme Court of India in Katara versus Union of India, 1989, established that no hospital may refuse emergency treatment to save a life, regardless of their ability to pay. I know we have medics in the house, and I know that they do take an oath, just like lawyers do, take an oath to defend justice when it calls for it. I want to implore upon this House to pass these amendments, to develop this bill further, to ensure that even private facilities are also culpable, equally culpable. They should not be left out because human life is more important and must be more important than financial gain. Honorable Speaker, Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya provides that every person has a right to the highest attainable standard of health, including the right to healthcare services. These amendments will protect and safeguard and actualize implementation of that right. Honorable Speaker, Section 137 of the Penal Code makes it an offense to unlawfully hinder the burial of a dead body. But if dead bodies are detained in mortuary facilities, that Kenyans that this bill reinforces. Honorable Speaker, it is therefore our duty as members of Parliament to ensure that we pass this legislation, we improve it, we develop it, we make it richer when it comes to that stage so that we can protect Kenyans. This bill will restore the dignity in death. This bill will give judiciary precedent, the legislative backing. This bill will align with the global health standards. It is bipartisan, it is human, it does not know the majority side, it does not know the minority side, it does not know Wamunyoro, it does not know any political affiliations. It is a bill for Kenyans. Let us take it as such when we debate. Let us enrich the debate. And Honorable Speaker, because I know many members, I had requested them to stay behind so they could contribute to this. I will not belabor, and I can tell they're convinced the way they're shaking their heads in conviction. Even the majority leader is convinced. I would like to call upon the immediate. I move. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and now request the immediate former chair of the Health Committee, Dr. Robert Pukose, to second. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't think anybody would have moved that bill better than you've done it. I think you've done it the right way. If we were in a court of law, I'm sure the judge would have tilted your way almost immediately. Dr. Pukose, take your seat for a minute. For the convenience of the House, I would like us to go back to order number 5 and allow the majority leader to table a number of papers, then we'll come back to this immediately. The majority leader, go ahead. Order. Majority leader, this is your chance to lay the papers.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority leader, go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 11th February 2026, afternoon sitting. The 2026 budget policy statement, together with the following accompanying documents. 1, the medium-term debt management strategy of 2026. 2, the draft division of revenue bill 2026. 3, the draft county allocation of revenue bill 2026. 4, the county government's additional allocations bill of 2026. And 5, programs outputs, performance indicators, and targets for the financial year 2026-2027 and the medium term. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I can confirm to the member for Kirinyaga County that indeed the bill she has just moved is a good bill, and I am convinced.
Nice. So the papers laid. Thank you. Back now to order number 16, I think. Back to order number 16. Honorable Bukose, this is a chance to second.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second this very important bill by the member for Kirinyaga, the Honorable Njeri. And this bill, Honorable Speaker, is a good bill. This bill came to us in the Committee of Health, and we had a look at it. It also came to us in the Committee of Budget, and we approved. It's an important bill, Honorable Speaker, because it speaks into the challenges that many Kenyans face. Honorable Speaker, under the Kenya Kwanza administration, we passed the 4 UHC bills. Among them, it created the Emergency, Chronic, and Critical Care Fund. Under this fund, there is the provision for emergency services. And therefore, whether it's a government facility, public facility, faith-based organization, or a private hospital, there is no reason why you cannot offer emergency services, because it is well taken care of. And therefore, this bill is just to reinforce that important aspect, because in the bill, it's providing that failure to attend to a patient because you are in an emergency situation, then you'll be fined 2 million shillings. And therefore, I think this actualizes that Kenya Kwanza creation of the Emergency, Critical, and Chronic Fund. And therefore, and in our constitution, every Kenyan is entitled to the highest attainable standard of health. And you are entitled to emergency services. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, many people, especially many of the members of parliament here today, will attest to the fact that you have cases where bodies are being detained in a hospital. And you know, once somebody has lost their person, these are people who are mourning, these are people who are in serious other challenges. People even conduct fundraising to go and get their body. But you still find the whole institution insisting that they must clear the bill. And I think this for a long time has been abused. When you look at the bill, it's limiting to public facilities. But members are free to also bring in amendments to include private facilities, because you have no reason to continue detaining a body. And as Honorable Njeri puts it, even if you stay with that body, you cannot sell it to anybody, and you cannot make money out of it. It is just humanly that you are able to release that body so that the relatives can be able to give that body a decent burial and be able to organize and get you your money. So I think, to me, this is a very good bill. And now we can begin with the public institutions where you are even getting money from the exchequer, from the taxes of Kenyans, where Kenyans are paying taxes. And more often, this parliament appropriates money from the public to those public institutions. And even now, with the primary health care fund, with the SHA fund, SHIF, with the emergency, critical, and chronic illness fund, all the other expenses have been paid. And even in other covers, you are covering the last respects for that body. And therefore, to me, Honorable Speaker, this is a very important bill that will address issues that affects our society, and we expect that hospitals will be able to now do the right thing, and that this House will pass this bill and it becomes law very soon so that it can be actualized. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second.
Thank you so much. I remember that I now propose the question that the Health Amendment Bill National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2024 be now read a second time. And the first bite of the cherry would be the chairman of the Health Committee, Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to give me opportunity to contribute to this bill. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important bill, and this is not the first time we have had proposal for this bill in this House. Actually, I think this is the third time, but this actually has gone relatively differently. It went through the committee, and the committee actually gave full support for this bill. I know other members have tried this before. Honorable Lord here actually was the first to propose exactly the same bill. But at the time, and considering the financial arrangements in the country, it was felt that this would actually bring a lot of hardships, particularly in the private sector, and therefore the committee didn't. But this particular time, the committee looked at it, and actually we support the bill. And Mr. Speaker, the object of this bill is actually simple. Is access to emergency treatment, whether you have money or not, at that critical point when you can lose your life or you can recover, but with very severe disabilities or severe injury to yourself, so that you recover with infirmities, or at a situation where quick treatment will actually resolve your illness quickly, which otherwise would take a longer time and make it more expensive. That's really by definition what emergency. Of course, therefore, it is important that that service be not subject to immediate availability of funds and payment. Then the other one, Mr. Speaker, is the detention of bodies to enforce payment. Obviously, this is something that many people have suffered through, and there's been a lot of public outcry, and bodies have been detained, people have suffered, and therefore, this is something that, again, we should address. And this bill, in the form that it is actually referring to public health facilities, which is okay, but if you look at that, it's a bit discriminatory. And the committee has actually looked at the bill and proposed a number of amendments, which will include also applying in private health facilities. There will be other amendments that we will take into consideration, but in principle, we support it. But Mr. Speaker, the underlying issue in the whole of this debate is health financing. Bodies are held because the people who are running the facilities, particularly the private hospitals, need to recover their expenses. And as people see and often say, it is the medical practitioners, the facilities that people see. What people don't realize is behind all this, when you are in an emergency medical situation, what is happening? You are using appliances, you are using medical product, you are giving oxygen, you are giving IV fluids. What the world and the country does not see is that the people who manufacture and provide these things do not give them for free, and they will actually insist on being paid. And that's where really the problem is. And so, in reality, Mr. Speaker, health should not be a business. There is a very simple principle, Mr. Speaker. If you are sick and you go to a hospital and you are denied treatment, the whole world agrees with you. And as we are putting here, we will punish the people who deny you treatment. So if that is the situation, how would then that be a business? A business where you are entitled to, whether you are able to pay or not. Take the example of somebody who is hungry, and you walk to a restaurant or a hotel and say, I'm hungry, I'm famished, I'm suffering, and you eat. And then you say, I don't have money to pay. The whole world agrees that you should be punished. If you didn't have money, why did you go there? Now, that basic difference is very important. So that socially, psychologically, and emotionally, the whole world agrees that health services should actually not be a business. But the reality in the world in which we live is that it is. As I said, people who manufacture health products will need to be paid. People who work will need to be paid. But I think in our circumstances today, we are making efforts. And the reason why the committee had earlier rejected the same bills and now accepted is because we are put in law provisions that if they're working should actually make it possible for payments to be made. We have put the social health insurance the social health insurance law in place, the funding in place. We have put the emergency and critical care fund in place. We have put the primary care fund in place. But however, Mr. Speaker, we have a framework which can make this possible. But I must say, this is something we must work very hard on. SHA, for example, really must work. I know it is starting to work a little bit, but there's still a lot of issues that we need to actually look at, and this will bring a report here that will indicate what can we do to improve it. The critical care fund, although has not been absolutely funded, we need about 150 billion. I think the last that was given was something like 10 billion. Now, if that is what is going to pay when you are being treated on an emergency basis and is not adequate, it will not work. So again, we will have to look at the budget process so that when we pass this bill, the budget process must also reflect that as a country, we want to provide funds for critical and emergency care. And I'll call upon members here that when the committee brings and proposes higher funding for the health sector, that will be necessary, because the critical care fund is actually not under the insurance. It is actually one that is to be done from the Treasury. So with that, Mr. Speaker, we support this bill, and we will make appropriate amendments. The committee will have appropriate amendments to it, but it should go through. But what I remind ourselves, that the very best is to get a system where health care to a large extent is not really a business as such, but if it is a business, we put a financing framework that makes it possible for all to assess, so that even the business people in it do not lose their funds. Because if they do, they will actually, people will not provide the services that we need. And the public sector alone cannot provide all the services that the country needs. So our system must take into consideration both the private sector and the public sector in terms of financing to make this a bill that is realistic, that will not be seen as punitive without taking into consideration the people who put their resources and their time in providing health for Kenyans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much. Members, I know this has a lot of interest. We got 3 hours on this bill. I wish to request for your patience. Don't pressure me from the chair. Only one person will speak at a time. So as I give the member for Molo a chance to contribute on this, I want to request you, don't come here to pressure me. I'm going to follow the list the way it is. It's 3 hours, only 11 requests. So everyone will have a chance to speak. Go ahead, member for Molo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this very good bill drafted by the formidable lawyer, the Honorable Member for Kirinyaga County, the Honorable Njeri Maina. Honorable Speaker, this bill is seeking to amend the Health Act Cap 241 so that it aligns with our Constitution. Article 43 of our Constitution that gives the right to health, and Article 28, Honorable Speaker, of our Constitution that gives the right for human dignity. Honorable Speaker, this bill is seeking to do two very major things. One, to make it now essential, mandatory for doctors and health institutions to give emergency attention or emergency care to any patient that goes to those hospitals, irrespective of whether they have money or not, Honorable Speaker. And this is also a big call, Honorable Speaker, in as much as we're putting this into law, to restore the humanity that we had for health professionals, whether they are doctors or nurses, Honorable Speaker, because the cases that the Honorable Member demonstrated of people who have been denied medical care, and there are so many of them, Honorable Speaker, who have died, waiting for medical attention, and it is an emergency, Honorable Speaker. When we're in school, the people that we knew from our villages who are nurses and who are doctors, we knew them as very humane and passionate people. But, Honorable Speaker, it seems that nowadays that humanity now has gone out of the window, and that's why you find doctors denying medical attention to people, Honorable Speaker, until they die on the benches of those particular hospitals, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's also important to note that this bill does not remove the need to pay, Honorable Speaker, for services offered by hospitals, Honorable Speaker. It only criminalizes detention of living people and dead people, Honorable Speaker, in those particular hospitals. We have had cases, Honorable Speaker. In fact, I intervened a week ago for one of my constituents who had stayed in hospital, whose body had been taken in hospital, Honorable Speaker, for more than 5 months. Honorable Speaker, it will even be logical sense for hospital, Honorable Speaker, you end up spending more money on that particular body in hospital, or you end up spending more money on that particular patient that they're putting in the hospital, Honorable Speaker. It will make more sense for you to release them at home so that those hospitals do not continue to incur other expenses, Honorable Speaker. But it seems now that the hospitals are not doing this, that is why it now has been necessitated to come up with this particular law, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would also like to speak to the costs of medication, Honorable Speaker, and especially for private hospitals, Honorable Speaker. Although the bill is seeking to criminalize this only in public hospitals, Honorable Speaker, but I wish the Health Committee would come up with amendments to also make it for private hospitals, Honorable Speaker. I was interacting with one of my friends over the weekend, Honorable Speaker, and he was telling me of a hospital, for example, in Nakuru, that is asking for a deposit of 80,000 shillings for just a hospital bed, Honorable Speaker. Even the most, even five-star hotels, Honorable Speaker, in this country, per night is only 30,000 shillings in the most expensive hotels. So why are hospitals asking for a deposit of even 80,000 shillings for just a hospital bed? And all they need to do is a small bed. The hospital, the patient need to sleep, Honorable Speaker, chai asubuhi, lunch and dinner, Honorable Speaker. And most of them don't even feed well, Honorable Speaker, because they are sick. So this issue of charging 80,000 shillings for the hospital bed, even for private hospital, Honorable Speaker, should be looked to and be made illegal, Honorable Speaker. We have the other charges, Honorable Speaker, for private hospitals. Private hospitals play a very critical role in supplementing what is done in public hospitals. And therefore, it's a good thing that we have businesses, we have entrepreneurs that have invested in these hospitals as a business, and that complements the work that is being by public hospitals, Honorable Speaker. But that should not be at exorbitant fees, Honorable Speaker. In some hospitals, the cost of removing a tooth, just removing a tooth, is over 10,000. Kutoa meno tu. These charges that are being charged by these private hospitals, even if it's a business, they are very exorbitant. And I think the Ministry of Health needs to come up with regulations of how much should be paid for which service. The same way, for example, in SHA, Honorable Speaker, where it standardizes the fees for consultation for all medication, Honorable Speaker, there should also be regulations that standardizes how much is charged by hospitals, Honorable Speaker, even by private hospitals, Honorable Speaker. Because in as much as we appreciate how they are supplementing the work of public hospitals, Honorable Speaker, some charges are too exorbitant, Honorable Speaker. And with that, I beg to support this particular bill by the Honorable Member and congratulate the Honorable Njeri for doing such a very good job. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Rueda Obo. The next one in line is the Honorable John Gitonga of Manyata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I will start at foremost by congratulating my colleague, Honorable Njeri Maina. And Honorable Speaker, also congratulating the House on a priority on private members' bills so that members can be able to impact their life in this House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise also to support the bill, and I believe this bill aligns very well with the spirit of our Constitution under Article 43, Honorable Speaker, subsection 3, on issues to do with social security. Honorable Speaker, health is a very critical issue, Honorable Speaker, in this nation. And Honorable Speaker, many of the honorable members who are here today will agree with me that everybody has a case in his constituency or in his county on a detained body, Honorable Speaker. And mostly it is happening in our public hospitals. Honorable Speaker, last week I was dealing with a case in my constituency of a body that has stayed in hospital for 4 months. And the family has taken trips to a hospital in Kikuyu, Honorable Speaker, close to 20 times, requesting for waivers. We write letters, Honorable Speaker, but the family had stopped the morning. People had contributed all they can contribute, but because the bill is big, Honorable Speaker, the body continue being detained. And Honorable Speaker, this bill speaks to the humanity of this House. This bill, Honorable Speaker, speaks to the conscience of our nation, Kenya. That, Honorable Speaker, when somebody loses a loved one, what remains of that person is to get closure and continue with their lives. Detaining a body, Honorable Speaker, is the worst type of torture for a family that has lost a loved one. Honorable Speaker, I would not wish any person in this nation to experience somebody who has lost their lives and they have been detained. And Honorable Speaker, to prove that, we have seen even those that die outside the country do harambes, even when they are unable to raise the funds to have the bodies of their loved one brought back to the nation, to our nation for burial, Honorable Speaker. And this speaks to our culture. This speaks, Honorable Speaker, to our religion. Honorable Speaker, our Muslim brothers have in their religion that they're supposed to bury their loved ones within a day. And we have seen it many times, including honorable members. When a family is unable to bury their loved one because the body has been detained, it means that, Honorable Speaker, even they feel lost in terms of the religion, Honorable Speaker. And maybe among the amendments, Honorable Speaker, that we are going to be proposing is to tie this to our social security, to tie this into insurance agencies, that insurance companies that provide insurance in this nation, so that, Honorable Speaker, hospitals can have insurance when a loved one is lost, and when when a loved one is lost and the family is unable to raise the funds, they can go to that insurance to claim for something instead of going the civil case way, as Honorable Jerry Maina had proposed. I also want to propose, Honorable Speaker, another amendment that is very important, is to also give a timeline so that it doesn't mean that every single body that has died in hospital, the family negates the payment knowing very well there is law to say release the body immediately. We need to put a timeline, maybe a week or two, for ensuring that there is also some effort from the side of the family to have the body of their loved one getting buried, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I can't finish my contribution without saying this House must critically look at the health sector of this nation. And without a doubt, Honorable Speaker, I'll say that yes, we have passed laws here, including the ones that established SHA and SHIF. But we need to agree that our health sector in this nation is ailing. The myriad of challenges, Honorable Speaker, cannot be underscored by this House. We have equipment in our public hospitals that are not working. Many of our hospitals, level 5s and level 4s, are actually hospitals that are not in operation. And it is a deathbed of many of our loved ones, Honorable Speaker. We have seen the program that was started by the former regime, Honorable Speaker, of the equipment. Many of those equipments are not working today. And it means that the deaths that we want today to pass and say that they should not be detaining the bodies, Honorable Speaker, we will have more of those if we don't work and put health first, Honorable Speaker, in this House. Honorable Speaker, Article 43 is very clear on the right of Kenyans when it comes to health care. And one of the purpose of this House is to push and ensure that our Constitution is well obeyed. If it is a county government, we must ensure and call our brothers in the upper house, in the Senate, Honorable Speaker, to ensure and compel health care systems that work in the counties so that, Honorable Speaker, we don't continue facing the challenges that we are facing. Honorable Speaker, we raised some issues here with the Ministry of Health last year. Some of them involved an equipment that was supposed to change the diagnosis and treatment of cancer in this nation. The CyberKnife, Honorable Speaker, equipment in the KU hospital, Honorable Speaker. That equipment that was launched in the year 2023, even today has never operated, simply because we don't have a technician to use such an equipment. It speaks to lack of seriousness when we are investing in serious equipment and using public money. I call upon this House to work this year to ensure that we do pass laws and compel our health care to work, Honorable Speaker. SHA is also something that is not very clear. We need to pass laws to ensure SHA works for the people. How comes, Honorable Speaker, me that is paid by government every month, contributes monthly, but when a hustler, a matatu tout, gets to pay SHA, is told to pay for 2 years? It is not right, it is not fair, and Honorable Speaker, those are things that are ailing our nation. As I support this bill, Honorable Speaker, I want to call upon this House to reconsider that law and ensure that it works for the nation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable, I could actually read this for you so that you don't carry your hands up. The next person online is Charles Ngusia, will be followed by Gitonga Murugara, like that, so that you don't keep holding your hands. It's that simple. Honorable Ngusia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this critical bill, actually, which has been done by Honorable Njeri. Congratulations, the lady from Kirinyaga, who has done a very good bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill is killing two birds with one stone. Number one, it is going to criminalize, or rather illegalize, the retention of dead bodies. And also, it is going to ensure we are going to streamline emergency treatment of emergency cases in our hospital, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I note with concern that Kenya ratified international treaties that actually compel, or rather forces the state to respect and to protect and, of course, fulfill the right of health as enshrined in our Constitution. And that is why this bill is so important. It is going to align with the international standard and also live into the spirit of our Constitution 2010 we assented. Mr. Speaker, I recall last year, I tried actually to sort out a mess in my constituency. The body was retained in hospital for 2 years, and it had accumulated a mortuary bill of around 2 million shillings, Mr. Speaker. And it took me an intervention actually to help this family to get that body. And these are some of the things we want to sort out completely. We need to do away with these cases in our country so that we can treat the human bodies with the dignity and respect it deserves, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it worries me a lot. Even emergency cases, they go more than actually a day before being attended in our hospitals.
Order. Order. Go ahead. There's a member from, I think this one is from Baringo. This first-time MP who keeps interrupting and pointing at the speaker with his fingers. It's unparliamentary. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this intervention. It's indeed Gadoni Wamushomba and Babu Owino who are interfering in the process of the House, the flow of the House. Mr. Speaker, I was actually mentioning some of these emergency cases in our country. They go even a day without being attended to. And it is high time we define what is an emergency case. If an emergency case is occurring, it should not take more than 10 minutes in hospital without being attended to. You end up somebody either breaking a leg or any part of the body, and you will end up staying in hospital for more than 6 hours without being attended. I don't know, opening the files, paying 2,000 shillings. These things should go direct to the doctor and be attended to without hesitating, or rather compelling the patient to pay the bills, Mr. Speaker. So this bill is very important for us as a country. And it is unfortunate we have commercialized our health sector. We should not be prioritizing on issues of money. Instead, we are supposed to prioritize saving lives and even saving people from going through difficult times, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, I note it is very important we actually treat this bill very seriously, make sure proper implementation is done so that we can restore dignity and also to align with the international treaties we have assented to, and also to live in the spirit of our Constitution 2010. With those few remarks, I fully support and congratulate the Honorable Member for bringing such a beautiful bill in our House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mrugara, followed by the Honorable Babu Owino.
Oh, Babu is there. All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to stand and support this bill unreservedly, because it's a very important bill, especially as regards our health sector in the country, which is sector to some extent has challenges, which challenges must be overcome from time to time. It's important we thank Honorable Njeri Maina, the member for Kirinyaga, for doing this. She's always an astute lawyer, young lawyer, who performed very well when I sat with her in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. And with the whole expanse of our legal career ahead of her, Honorable Njeri, you're going to do well, and we wish you the very best as we continue in this country. Honorable Speaker, matters health are constitutional rights. In fact, it's part of the basic human rights in the country, and if anybody has any doubt to this, look at Article 43 of our Constitution. Therefore, this being a constitutional right, we as a House of Parliament, the National Assembly, we must do the best we can to ensure that we have the best legislation that governs matters health. Upon passage of this bill, it will go to the Senate. And we must implore on the Senate also to move with speed, pass this bill so that it is assented to. And we'll be also pleading with the President of the Republic of Kenya to assent to this bill so that we can realize the fruits of what we are legislating on here today. We know very well health is devolved and the national government has only policy to deal with. Our hospitals are run by county governments, and there isn't much right home about when it comes to what county governments do, especially in the health sector. We have said from time to time that in fact, possibly we were wrong to devolve health. It should have remained to the national government so that we leave county governments to deal with the mundane issues like control of gambling and what have you, mundane things that do not touch on general Kenyans' livelihoods. Be that as it may, we must implore upon the governors to ensure that our hospitals are working, they are working well, and Kenyans are able to reap fruits of their health sector and laws like this one, which we are promulgating today. It's important to note that health, and especially the practice of medicine and law, are the oldest professions in this country. Professions properly called, there are other professions which really are not professions but trades. But as professions, you will all recall that when it came to practice of law and the practice of medicine, there were no payments. These were pro bono services that were being offered by doctors of yore and lawyers of yore, those who were there before those times. However, today, greed has crept in to both the professions, and even as we admonish the medical practice, lawyers also cannot escape unscathed. So what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to ensure that when it comes to medicine, you save life first, not you look at profit or you look at the monetary gain you are making from the practice. Therefore, how does a person who comes to hospital critically injured, you are detained as your relatives look for money to pay a deposit so that you can be admitted into hospital? Sincerely, I do not think this is for this season or it is for this age in time. We should now be moving to universal health care where you move into hospital, you are treated first, and the money comes second. Therefore, the issue of deposits should actually be legislated against so that you do not have to have any deposits when you appear in the hospital on an emergency basis. Now, the second issue that we are legislating on today is on dead bodies, such that a hospital worth its salt would decline to release a body purely because the hospital is owed some medical fees. And the question being posed by these members of parliament is, what is the benefit of holding that body? What do you reap from holding the body? What are you going to do with it? Absolutely nothing. It's purely to cajole and get relatives into more agony and trouble because they have to look for money to pay that bill before they lay to rest their loved one. This cannot be justified in any way, and the hospitals must be admonished for even trying to retain security so that this person will come back to claim the body and claim the security. You'll be told you have to leave behind your ID card. How can anyone detain your ID card, your only mode of identification, especially in the rural areas like Tharaka, where really there are no passports or any other way you can identify yourself? You are told, leave behind your ID card. You are told, bring a title deed. Of what use would be a title deed unless it is accompanied by a legal document known as a charge or a mortgage. You cannot sell that property. You cannot do anything with that title. And sometimes even logbooks. You are told to bring a logbook so that we can hold it as security as you look for the money to reclaim the dead body. Unfortunately, for a logbook, you need a charter's mortgage. And without that, you can do nothing with those documents. And I laud Kenyans who are ingenious, because for the ID, the following day you just walk to a police station, report that the ID is lost, and within a span of 1 month, you have a new ID. So that hospital has wasted its energy, resources, and time in holding that ID. It is of no value, and I'm told many hospitals are holding many of these IDs which are useless. The same with a title deed, you get a replacement, a logbook, you get a replacement. Let us go back to the old days, as we said. The nursing profession, which is part of the medical practice, begins just around the time of a lady known as Florence Nightingale. This is a lady who volunteered with a battalion of nurses to go into battlefields where battalions were fighting against each other, but she would move in without caring which side the injured person came from to try and save life. She was not being paid by anybody. She was not asking for any deposit from anyone. She was just there to render pro bono services so that lives in the battlefields are saved. Those are emergencies. As we speak today, we don't go to war a lot, but we have road accidents, we have fire accidents, and all these accidents that bring in emergencies. Let's not have any hospital, let's not have any medical practitioner asking for a deposit before attending to an emergency case. With those remarks, I again laud Honorable Njeri. We need to support this bill. The Senate needs to fast track it, and we also urge the President to assent to the bill as soon as it is taken before him, so that Kenyans can continue to reap the fruits of universal health care applying to every Kenyan. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I already gave out the person speaking next.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the bill by Honorable Jane Njeri, a very well thought of bill, Honorable Speaker,
a bill that is preserving the dignity of Kenyans, not only inherently, but also the inalienable dignity
of Kenyans, of a right to access health services as enshrined in the Constitution in Article 43, Subarticle 1, Paragraph A, that every person has a right to access to healthcare services. And in addition to that, Article 43, Subarticle 2, further breathes life that every person has a right to access any emergency treatment. And Honorable Speaker, from time to time, we've been going against the spirit of the Constitution in an attempt to make money. And because of that, Honorable Speaker, we know very well that greed blurs vision. When there's too much greed, when we are just looking for money, there will be no vision. Honorable Speaker, we know very well of the Hippocratic oath that the doctors took, which is named clearly after the physician, the Greek physician called Hippocrates. And it is clear the person is the father of medicine. It is clear, Honorable Speaker, that the oath states that, number one, you should not do harm. Do no harm. Mean no harm. Number two, that you should treat the patients according to the best of your ability as a medic. And number three, that you owe a duty of care to the patients. that come to these medical facilities. Further, there is an oath taken by the nurses, the Nightingale Pledge, which was created in 1893 in honor of Florence Nightingale, that do no harm, that you need to practice nursing faithfully, just as doctors should practice medicine ethically. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, if somebody walks to a hospital to access treatment, the first thing that every Kenyan citizen should get is a right to have a healthy life. Honorable Speaker, you know the role of health in economic development. A sick nation...
Honorable Babu.
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
It would seem that mostly those who turn people away are neither doctors nor nurses. There are these people called hospital administrators. Where do you put them? Because
I'm coming there,
that
Honorable
oath.
Speaker. Most of these people who own these hospitals are doctors. And therefore, they are within that same bracket. And you see, to the administrators, the moment they are giving these instructions, they are given from the bosses. Now, most of the people that we employ as CEOs of these public hospitals are also doctors. And Honorable Speaker, you even go to Mama Lucy, which is just here. You will find that some of the medics are the ones who might be pushing the patients away, and that I've seen from time to time. And I also understand them, that they're also frustrated because of lack of payment. They are not paid on time, and they are not paid well. I also understand their frustrations. But the most important thing is to preserve life. And just to divert a little bit, General Patton in the United States of America said that when you fight for your country, you do not need to die for your country. But as you fight for your country, and I will quote verbatim, seriatim, as you fight for your country, you let the other bastard die for his country. Because the moment you die for your country and you win, then how will you enjoy the spoils of war? Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it brings me back to the role of health in economic development. A sick child cannot go to school. A sick nation cannot be productive. And that clearly tells you, Honorable Speaker, that the first most important thing to do is to ensure that healthcare is affordable. And if not affordable, should be free. If not free, should be very affordable. You walk to Mama Lucy Hospital, Honorable Speaker, you lack 500 shillings for x-ray, a chest x-ray, it means that you are going to die. At the same time, Honorable Speaker, you lack 2,500 shillings for high-level x-ray again, you don't get medication. Then it means that we are losing thousands of Kenyan citizens who deserve to grow this nation. Now, the worst comes in, Honorable Speaker, that you have been admitted. You've sold everything. You are from the village, you are from the slums, you are even from a well-off family. You've spent all your earthly belongings in a hospital. Then eventually you lose your patient. Then the rubber meets the road. You lose the patient, you've lost everything. Then you are told that you can't take a dead body from the hospital just to go and bury. At that point, Honorable Speaker, you are mourning. Somebody has passed on. You are mourning. Then the hospital insists that we have to get hold, we have to detain the body. Honorable Speaker, in a High Court case of one Mary Nyagero versus Karen Hospital, 2016, the late Justice Majanja, in his own wisdom, may his soul rest in peace, stated clearly that there is no property in a dead body, that you cannot sell a dead body. There is no economic value in a dead body. And therefore, detaining a dead body further adds grief to the families. Honorable Speaker, for those who are staying in Nairobi, and Honorable KJ will tell you that transporting a dead body from Nairobi, Honorable Speaker, hiring a car, first of all, clearing hospital bills, you don't have the money, then making the arrangements to hire the car, to get a hearse or a matatu, to transport a body to the village, to burial. Honorable Speaker, it's like you're burying two people at the same time. Economically, you are buried, and at the same time, you are burying a loved one. So, Mheshimiwa Njeri, this bill deserves to be supported by all members of parliament, because from our own constituencies, people are suffering. And I would like to say that these hospitals, Honorable Speaker, we need to pass this bill to curb this unethical, immoral behavior so that we can preserve the dignity of Kenyans. God bless you.
I will have the Honorable Basil, followed by the Honorable Mayaka, followed by the Honorable Sabina Chege, followed by the Honorable John Waweru, like that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the craft of the bill, Honorable Jerry, the MP for Kirinyaga, who actually brought this very important bill. I agree with most of the contributors to the bill. This is a very important bill, Mr. Speaker. And as just Honorable Babu said very well, you have no value, economic value in a dead body. And when you detain a dead body, basically, Mr. Speaker, you are hurting already a bereaved family who are actually trying to mourn their beloved one. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a very timely bill. I would want to make reference to one of the patients, one of the family in my constituency, who had a body that was detained in Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital for about 3 months, Mr. Speaker. When I spoke with the CEO, she was extremely, I would say, she was rude. She did not seem to have empathy with this particular family, Mr. Speaker. In fact, I wrote so many medical waivers to that particular hospital. I even asked them, are you operating as a public hospital or do you operate like a private hospital, Mr. Speaker? It was so annoying, a family that has already depleted their resources, Mr. Speaker, who could not even bury their loved one, were struggling to have their body released by Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital, Mr. Speaker. And that's why when I saw this bill, I've said I'm not going to move. I'll wait till the time I'm given the chance to contribute, because it really affected me, Mr. Speaker, to see a situation where an hospital doesn't seem to sympathize as well as empathize with a family that has already lost their loved one, Mr. Speaker. I don't think, Mr. Speaker, there is any family that deliberately would decide they don't want to pay medical bills for their patients or even for their loved ones, Mr. Speaker. It is a situation that puts people in that circumstance, Mr. Speaker, where economically they are crippled. They are not able to raise anything, Mr. Speaker. Even some of them go to an extra mile to sell all their assets, Mr. Speaker. They hold numerous arambis, Mr. Speaker, which yield nothing. Like in this particular case, Mr. Speaker, we did all we could to raise about 4 million, Mr. Speaker, but we could not raise the money. And that's why it's important we criminalize a situation where the hospital would detain a body of a Kenyan or a patient that has already gone to the other planet, Mr. Speaker. When I look at this particular bill, I have a couple of other salient points which justify why I support this particular bill. And I want to say categorically the bill, in addition or in consideration that it also aligns with Article 43 of the Constitution, particularly Subarticle 1 down to Subarticle 3 on the right to health, Mr. Speaker. At the same time, it aligns with Sustainable Development Goals number 3, Mr. Speaker, which talks of good health and well-being, Mr. Speaker. I also want to emphasize that the bill does deter or mitigate arambis and fundraising that are done to support medical-related costs, Mr. Speaker. The bill also does strengthen the patient rights, because when patients have already used what they could and their denied their health services, Mr. Speaker, that is in principle is denying them the right to health. And this particular bill protects that particular right, Mr. Speaker. The bill also supports healthcare workers, Mr. Speaker, by tightening the legal duties and as well as clarifying the roles and responsibilities, Mr. Speaker. At the same time, it does protect healthcare workers from abuse and unreasonable liabilities that arise within their within the medical field or the medical related services, Mr. Speaker. Importantly, this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, in terms of making it operationalize and make it to really not make hospitals not to operate, I would recommend that we also put emphasis on appropriating adequate resources, Mr. Speaker, to support operation and administrative costs of health facilities, Mr. Speaker, particularly public health hospitals. This is going to make sure hospitals have no excuse at all to detain bodies as well as deny patients right to health, Mr. Speaker. So I urge members, just as Honorable Babu, who was here, who left, that it's important for all members of Parliament to support this particular bill and ensure that we promote health services, particularly to the most poor, who are the majority in this particular country. So with those few remarks, I support and I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Please give the order. Some of my Honorable Sabina, the Honorable Waweru.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to also add my voice to this very important amendment to the Health Bill of 2024. Honorable Speaker, I want to first take this opportunity to really thank the Honorable Njeri Maina, the County MP for Kirinyaga, for coming up with this very important bill and doing so in a very interesting manner, Honorable Speaker. I was watching Honorable Njeri speak, and I was wondering if she was addressing a panel of judges, because it was very high level, and she looked extremely elegant while at it. So, Honorable Njeri, proud of you and congratulations. Honorable Speaker, this is an amendment that seeks to actually restore dignity to the human life. Because, Honorable Speaker, not only does it touch on a very important aspect, which is patients who go in for emergency services, because we all know at that particular emergency level, sometimes determines whether or not someone is alive. And the fact that it has to wait for a financial transaction to happen before someone gets medical attention, we have seen a lot of lives have been lost because of that. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, just the re-emphasize on that is very important. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of persons who are detained, dead bodies that are detained. Because, Honorable Speaker, and as someone else has alluded to it, a dead body has no value. You cannot take it and go and sell. Even if you want to harvest organs, organs are harvested prior, not before life is completely lost. So these dead bodies have no value. But also, Honorable Speaker, the fact that we are criminalizing this is even more important, because if you look at the legislations that are in some of the countries like South Africa, the United States, in India, the legislations are very specific in terms of criminalizing the offense of any person in charge of a public health facility. And I like the use of the word a person in charge, because the buck stops with the leadership of that particular health facility. He or she must ensure that the people who are working in that medical facility are not undermining this law, because he remembers that he or she will be the one who will be charged. So this is a very important aspect, and it also just gives strength to the section 137 of the Penal Code, which hinders the declining of providing dead bodies for that particular case. Honorable Speaker, also the aspect of having alternative payment plans. I think that's very important, and Honorable Mukunji also alluded to this, so that we also don't have situations where people are taking advantage of this particular law, whose main aim is to restore dignity. But having a payment arrangement for people who do not have the means of making the payment right then and then is very important, so that people remember that at the end of the day, for the medical facilities and services that were provided, payment still has to be made, because these public service centers and health facilities also still need to run. So that's a very important aspect to avoid anyone who is trying to take advantage. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at the very many cases that we have had in our country of families where people have not been able to get the dead bodies of their loved ones for as long as even 20 years, it's very unfair. They don't even get to have an opportunity of a closure to give their beloved people a dignified burial because they were not able to raise the medical fund. It's a very unfair aspect, and so this actually really helps the families, because for us in the African society, giving our loved ones a befitting farewell is a very important aspect of life in terms of its end and continuity of those ones who are still alive, for them to be able to have the comfort that they did give their dead person a befitting farewell. The other aspect also, Honorable Speaker, is the mothers with newborns. You find a mother with a newborn has been detained in hospital for long because you're not able to pay for that particular child. And actually, Honorable Speaker, there's no financial sense in it, because the more you're detained in hospital, the more you continue accruing the bills. In essence, this is someone who was not even able to pay those bills, and then you're adding to them another load. It does not make any financial sense. You'd rather allow the person to be released and then have a proper payment arrangement so that they can be able to continue with life outside there. Because you can imagine, Honorable Speaker, what it does to a newborn child, even if they're not able to speak or defend themselves, the kind of life that they're just in the hospital bed, they've not been able to go and stay at home. For even the mother who has just had that child, and they're not even able to leave the hospital, despite the fact that they do not have any medical issues with them, that they're just seated in a medical facility because they're not able to pay these particular fees. So, Honorable Speaker, I just want again to retaliate, and especially in terms of what the bill is speaking to, because the bill is very specific in terms of public health facilities, and number two, the aspects of criminalizing any offenders to this particular bill. I think those are two very important aspects to this particular amendment, and therefore, with those few remarks, I'd like to just register my support for this bill, and I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, before I contribute, I want to congratulate my sister, Njeri, famously known as Gasheri Gaito, the Women Rep Kirinyaga County, for a well-thought amendment of this health.
What does that mean?
Gasheri Gaito is our Njeri, our small Njeri. Yes, so it's so it is to show that the Kirinyaga people, and even the people who speak this language that I also speak, like and admire her. We admire her leadership. She's courageous, despite having a small body. But she's very, very courageous, and at the same time, are very smart. Among the smartest women reps we have in our region and in Kenya. So congratulations, Honorable Njeri, for thinking about how we can be able to sort issues. And I always say, in this house, Mr. Speaker, we have solutions. Sometimes we look for solutions outside. Sometimes we'll go and complain to the people on what the government is not doing or what they ought to do. But we have a solution here. And I'm happy that this is, as she moved the motion, she said, it doesn't belong to any political divide. It belongs to every Kenyan. And Honorable Speaker, especially the members of this house, almost every day, every weekend, you get calls from the constituents asking for help. Mr. Speaker, I think I've written endless letters to hospitals, trying to beg CEOs, hospitals management to release dead bodies. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate that even having a constitution that is very clear on the right to life on Article 26, the human dignity on Article 28, the right to health on Article 43, and also emergency medical treatment, and even having the landmark ruling from High Court. The commercialization of health in Kenya is real. Honorable Speaker, last year I moved a motion that I had proposed that we, as a civil servants and also government officials, attend and to public health facilities, so that, Mr. Speaker, as we are there, we'll also interact with our constituents. We will see a person who is coming in and being turned away. We will also give back the money that we receive from the exchequer through funding our insurances. And there's not a small amount of money going back to the public facilities. Because the challenge we have today is that we have more private facilities than public facilities. These private facilities are funded by the money from Kenyan citizens, whereas we have public facilities funded by the exchequer, but we will find that the services given there, we have a long way to go. Whereas we know, Mr. Speaker, a facility like Kenyatta National Hospital has the best doctors. They have even performed best surgeries, that have not been done in any other facility in Kenya. But you still find, Mr. Speaker, that you'll find there are not enough doctors. Patients going there, they will take a very long time to be taken care of. Emergency section, Mr. Speaker, we find that Kenyans are still taken back. Mr. Speaker, what do we talk, when we say about emergency, what do we mean? It is not something that was not planned. Maybe a fire, there was a fire and cases of fire. Maybe there was an accident, Mr. Speaker. When such a person rushes, the person is taken to the nearest health facility. So to go and ask such a person, give me 200,000, 100,000, where will they get it from? Honorable Njeri, when she was moving, she mentioned about my friend, the late Betty Bayo. Well, she went to a facility and they have to wait from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. for people to wake up so that they can be able to give the money for deposit for her to be admitted. And she was bleeding. It is sad we lost Betty Bayo, a very famous musician. But this is only one of the cases that were highlighted. Many people lose their lives when they are turned away. And I think it is important that any health facility, even before we pass this bill, that when somebody comes with an emergency case, first save a life, then you can refer them to another facility if you see they don't have money. But you cannot just turn somebody away. That is even, somebody who is not even human, Mr. Speaker. And so we need to turn the eye from the health sector, from commercialization, to health that saves life and taking care of human beings. Mr. Speaker, when I was looking at the numbers of the body that were detained, I saw in 2024 Kenyatta National Hospital, there were 246 bodies of infants. I put myself in the shoes of a mother who walks in, waiting to go home with a baby. And maybe this baby passes on, or a small baby gets sick, you go to hospital and the baby passes on. Already the mother has the loss of that infant. And then you dare hold such a body because you want money from that mother. How inhuman can anybody be, Mr. Speaker? As we have said, a dead body has no value. Most of these families, and I know my colleagues have said there are other ways of finding out whether the family can be able to afford, or even giving, dates and times on when they can be able to come and pay. So the first problem, somebody came in or brought a relative, and then the person passes on. So it's already painful, the family is going through a loss. Very few Kenyans, even religiously, there's some religion that they want to bury their kin immediately. But if they are not able to get that body out, it will not just because they want to run away from paying. It can't be, Mr. Speaker. It is because they do not have a hospital and a facility like the Moi Teaching Referral Hospital has a very clear, and I want just to say, when I was the chair of health, we visited these facilities. The Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital has a very good social support. And so the social worker, by the time you walk in the hospital, by the time you even get admission, the social worker is able to tell that family at the end of the day they will manage to pay or they will not manage to pay. Here we are talking about dead bodies being detained. But Mr. Speaker, even people who get well, a mother delivers, then you are detained in a hospital, you have to share a bed, or you have to sleep on the floor because that hospital wants you to pay. No one would want to stay in a hospital even after one day when you are discharged, Mr. Speaker. So even as we do this amendment, we need to look at the law again and see how do we then make sure, and especially the social department of the hospital, such that by the time a person is being released from hospital, if a person dies, the hospital already knows this family is needy. We cannot be able to push them further. Let them first go bury their kin, and they can commit themselves that when we get this amount of money, we can come and pay. If it's emergency, once life is lost, it is lost. But if you save a life, you can be able to give that person a chance to go back, maybe recover, go back to work, take a loan, or even get money, do a harambe, and bring back. So I wish to urge, even as we pass the law, because laws are passed, Mr. Speaker, but the implementation of law is another thing. So if there is already a high court ruling on the same, why are we still having bodies detained in hospitals? So we need to have a way of these hospitals having to release these bodies so that the kin or the families can go and bury, and then they can be left with a clear way on how they can be able to sort the bill. Mr. Speaker, let me speak about SHA, because SHA has a component of emergency. And Mr. Speaker, if the SHA had covered only level 6, emergency happens and one is taken to the nearest facility. So we may need to relook, and I know the health committee members, some of them are here, if there is a way we can be able to look at what level is this emergency care being given at, so that even if you are rushed to the nearest dispensary, you are taken care of. If it's a level 1, level 2, level 3, because emergency is for somebody to be taken care of. Mr. Speaker, and I want just addition of 1 more minute, I want to say something about also emergency handling, because that is something that we also need to look as a nation. If somebody gets an accident today on Thika Superhighway, where do they get an ambulance?
1 more minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Where do they get an ambulance? So we should be having a shortcut, like the way I know if I want to apply for Nyota, I'll do *54#. So if there is an emergency that happens on whichever highway, Nakuru Highway, then how can those people access to emergency care so that there's an ambulance? Number 2, handling of our patients. The majority of Kenyans are... Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Majority of Kenyans are dying because once they get an accident, you find people with pangas trying to cut the cars, trying to pull people out. So they actually don't die because of the accident, but the handling. So once we have that number of emergency, we also need to have professionally trained people so that if there's an accident, it's not the business of the people who come to steal phones, to come and try to pull people away. So you pull somebody, you cut off the leg and leave it in the car. So that if there is an emergency and there's an ambulance, the people who are well-trained personnel can come and handle the accident victims and take them to the nearest facility. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to congratulate Honorable Njeri, and I support the amendment. Thank you very much.
The Honorable KJ.
Mr. Speaker, I must thank you and also wish you a happy new year and great leadership in this new session, as you always do by guiding this parliament with your very great leadership skills. Mr. Speaker, I also take this opportunity to congratulate and thank the county MP for Kirinyaga for coming up with this very crucial bill that is extremely timely at a time when country is considering its healthcare and healthcare legislation. I want to thank Honorable Njeri Maina, who is also in a way my county MP, let me say my in-laws county MP, and must thank her for such amazing legislative work in the House. And this is what Honorable Njeri, you are elected to do in this House. Mr. Speaker, this amendment is seeking to amend the Health Act Cap 241 of the laws of Kenya, so that it is able to provide for access to emergency treatment and healthcare services prior to the payment of prospective medical costs by users. And Honorable Speaker, why this becomes an important piece of legislation is because we know that we are losing lives uncountable when Kenyans are not able to access emergency healthcare or healthcare at whatever level because of the requirements for payment ahead of medical care. Mr. Speaker, this becomes a critical concern for us who are in legislation, and especially at this time when we are very careful about what we are doing in the space of the medical services, up to and including the new legislation that this House has passed that has enabled for a new regime of management of healthcare in this country, up to and including the changes that we are making as a House in regard to how health is covered, even in its payment and insurance, which has been a journey that this 13th Parliament has walked. And so what the Honorable Jerry Maina brings to the House is not only timely, but very critical, very useful, not only to the people that she represents, the people of Kirinyaga, but also to the country of Kenya. I must also congratulate her for very ably moving these, and we can see that her training as a legal profession does bring some good value to this House. Mr. Speaker, my attention is drawn to her recommendation on the amendment of Section 2 of CAP 241, where, in part, she is seeking to amend this section by deleting the definition of emergency treatment and substituting it, therefore, for the following new definition, that emergency medical treatment means the necessary initial or immediate medical care that is administered to a critically ill or injured person to avert or prevent death, disability, unnecessary morbidity, or worsening of a medical situation. Mr. Speaker, the case of a known musician in the name of Betty Bayo has been brought up in this debate this afternoon. And Mr. Speaker, this is where legislation becomes a matter of life and death. That if these amendments that Honorable Jerry Maina is pushing today, chances are that we probably would be having this great and celebrated daughter of Kenya still alive if we had been able to have passed these ahead of the tragedy that occasioned the death of this amazing daughter of our country. Mr. Speaker, I want to support fully the proposal that Honorable Jerry Maina is making in this amendment of Section 2 of our Health Act. Mr. Speaker, there is also a perennial problem with our healthcare system in Kenya, where Kenyans are occasioned to a situation of double jeopardy, where a family has lost a loved one, and in addition to the loss of a loved one, they now have to again contend with bargaining and dealing with medical care providers so that they may be able to get the body of a lost loved one, for them to be able to inter the body or conduct the final rites. And Mr. Speaker, in these amendments that the Honorable Jerry Maina is proposing, I do see that she is proposing for us to make it an offense for public health care facilities to detain the body of a deceased person as a means of enforcing settlement of outstanding medical bills. Mr. Speaker, if this was the only amendment that she was proposing, I would have supported the bill totally. But I want to say that even the additional amendments that she's proposing are so useful. And in essence, Mr. Speaker, we have seen situations where families in their state of mourning are occasioned to a double jeopardy of again having to deal with financial offices in hospitals, Mr. Speaker, and the tragedy of it, as has been revealed with the enforcement of the new SHA regulations and laws that this House has passed. Mr. Speaker, we have been able to see the most amazing, and amazing here not in a spectacular way, in a saddening way, the most spectacular offenses in medical service providing institutions, where, Mr. Speaker, out of the SHA journey that we have walked so far, we are realizing that there are institutions that pretend to be offering medical services that have in their staff component more accountants than they even have medical practitioners. That there is an institution that will have employed 50 financial officers, whereas they only have 3 or 4 medical doctors and a handful of nurses, Mr. Speaker. Meaning that this is not even a medical providing institution, it is actually a financial institution. And as such, Mr. Speaker, we end up coming into the problems that we see where the monies are put ahead or in front of, or given more value to life or even the feelings of families that are mourning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do see a proposal that is here proposing that we should be able to resolve the problem of patients or their relatives having to pay medical fees prior to admission and treatment. Mr. Speaker, this is critical. The emergency unit of any hospital should live up to just that word, emergency unit. That, Mr. Speaker, before the admission of any patient, any processing that should happen should be the vitals, the medical vitals that are undertaken for the patient to be admitted. But, Mr. Speaker, today, in most of our medical institutions, we realize that instead of us having to go for the vitals of the patient, we go to seek for their ability to pay medical bills that cannot even be accounted for because this patient has not even received any medical assistance. So how are you able to weigh what it shall cost for this patient to be treated? Finally, Mr. Speaker, I do see a proposal here by the Honorable Njeri Maina that is seeking to better how we handle the release of bodies, Mr. Speaker, which in itself is a critical thing that speaks even to our traditions and our being as a people. And Mr. Speaker, it must be said at this point that medical institutions today have borrowed so heavily from financial institutions that they have even borrowed from our being as Africans, Mr. Speaker. That the African did have traditional doctors. They had a way of taking care of their sick. And Mr. Speaker, they were so careful that even what was given to that person who takes care of the patient was not a payment. It was actually an agreement that was made to appreciate the practitioner. However, today, a hospital is not any different from a bank. But Mr. Speaker, I must say that we must seek in the proper place of the process of this bill to make sure that this covers not only the private institutions, but the public institutions, but also the private ones. Mr. Speaker, allow me 1 minute to also say that I must thank members of parliament and up to and including the national government NGCDF in the Goretti South constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I was seeking this 1 minute to thank the members of parliament who were able to pass the laws that gave life to a new regime of management of health